altcoins have their own purpose, and this is something we've been speaking about quite a lot. It's not the Bitcoin show. Bitcoin is a currency, and it's the most popular currency, but all these altcoins have a massive purpose. And for me, the biggest category is the DeFi space, and I think that's where the biggest value can be found right now. I was kind of saying this to one of the students. The way you want to look at things as well is that DeFi is where institutions are going to be investing in, and then categories like NFTs are more retail. So for me right now, there's a disparity. Like DeFi is undervalued compared to something like NFT, and you can plot the charts together and you can see that. Like you've had a massive surge, which is basically coming from FOMO, and then you've got the DeFi space, which for me is still very well priced. So you could be that's where I think there's value to be found. Even off the back of this surge, I still think compared to some other coins, they're still really well priced. So, and I think that's going to help the altcoins outperform Bitcoin, because I think money will be flowing there from institutions. That's kind of the next obvious category where institutions should be investing, because that's kind of what I see is replacing our banking system. So it's going to happen at some stage. It's going to happen. I saw in the group now there's another bank, Lloyd's, are not letting people transfer money over to certain cryptos and things like that. They're all, if you think about it logically, guys, they've got an oligopoly, right? So it's like the petrol stations. They all price petrol at the same price in the areas, and they keep that price. And it's in economics, it's oligopoly. Is the word that they use for that. So these banks have had this control, and now someone else has come in and they can't really get their cut. They don't know how they're going to make money. They can't control things. And of course, they're not going to push people over to the competition. It's really interesting that people think that all of this change does not come without a few bumps along the way, for sure. And it's just going to be interesting how much change people can take before they start to get freaked out and bail out. But it's really interesting what, like the classic adage is, when everybody's buying property, then you want to be selling. When everybody's in the market and they're buying everything, that's when you want to be selling. And it's the same kind of principle here. One thing that's really interesting, mate, that I want to ask you is with regards to the DeFi space and this kind of slowly transitioning in and outperforming NFTs. And it makes sense what you said totally about NFTs being a retail play. And that's why they've had that explosive growth. Over what time period do you see DeFi coming in and kind of taking over from NFTs when the institutions get involved?
Right, I think now is that I think money's going to be flowing there now. Like I think you've got to think, obviously money's going to be going into like when you read online, you will see that a lot of hedge funds now are allowing a small percentage, even massive hedge funds, in cryptos. And that doesn't mean just Bitcoin. They're not restricted to just Bitcoin. So I think directly or indirectly, money's going to be flowing into the DeFi space now. I think there's going to be a shift. That's not to say you should jump out of all your NFT positions. We've got positions in non-fungible tokens, but I think right now where I'm accumulating is not in that space, because for me that's kind of had a big run, and it could go a bit more as a whole. I think there's some gems in that category that will just win the race, but I think the whole DeFi space is going to go up. So I almost think like if you go into that category and you invested a little bit in each one, I think you do pretty well. But obviously if you hand select your coins, but I think the time is now, honestly. That's where I'm accumulating right now. I think there's massive value. Compound at $500 is really good value. I see that coin as being 2,000 by the end of the year. So
yeah, and that's exactly what Susan's just said. What are your favorite DeFi cryptos? So Compound would be one that you would class in that category then, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I think that one is one of the big ones. It's one of the most established ones. It's already doing really, really well. It's already kind of linked up. If you go on, and what they provide is amazing. It's literally everything we want in banking that we don't have. No middleman, borrowing and lending without credit checks, just based on, it's to me, it's crazy, the current system. Like, you could, like, there's people, right, that have got wealth. You could have 10 houses, right? You could have thousands or even hundreds of thousands in the bank, and you could go for a loan and they will say, oh, sorry, your credit's not good. There's no money for you. It makes no sense whatsoever. So the new system cuts out the middleman. It cuts, so you can lend and borrow without the middleman. It's safe. There's nobody involved. Nobody's got custody of your money. It sits in a blockchain. It's an incredible technology. And Compound, in my opinion, is at the forefront of that and is the leader in that. But there's other DeFi categories which will complement that, and there will do other functions. And all of it is important as part of the ecosystem. But that's, we can talk about Ethereum, we can talk about Bitcoin, we can talk about Cardano, and all of these projects have massive potential for growth from where we are. But Bitcoin has already grown a lot. $200. It's now, $50,000. Ethereum has grown. Cardano has grown in many respects. From where it started at 3 cents. 2-3 cents not that long ago.
You bought into that as well early days, didn't you?
I did.
You got into that one quite early.
That was one of the top ones that I got. I didn't get in at 3 cents. I bought quite a lot at 30 cents. And that actually really helped me grow my account. As you know, I took 30K and turned it into just over 300K. And part of it was like Cardano, Icon. I got in really, really early and I held on for the whole ride. And that's part of the journey. But right now, I still think there's a lot of these opportunities. I think, we'll be talking about some of these projects now, especially, as I said, in the DeFi space, where like you've got Compound at 500 and at some point it could easily be 10,000. And that's not pie in the sky. It's, if we're going where I think we're going, that can easily happen. So, so I think the opportunities, you've got to think, where is the opportunity right now? Now, as you guys also should be doing, you should also be trading and building your income that way. So invest, but also trade opportunities, take that money and then invest it. That's the best way. That's kind of what I'm doing. I mean, I'm in a trade right now. I can share the chart with people if we want to jump into the charts.
Love it. Let's do it. They're not here to look at our faces, mate. As cute as you may be, they are here to see your beautiful brains in action. So let's get started with the live action stuff, mate, because that's where we get the most value for sure.
Okay, 1 second. Let me find. Okay. Right. So I will bring in my chart. So this one is, and this is where, and I've showed examples of things like this in the past, where we mustn't get emotional or have sentiment towards any particular crypto. So if I show you, this is SOL Solana. I'm really bullish on this project, and I do have this as part of my long-term portfolio. Okay, now this is a good example, and the reason I'm bringing this one up is, when we look at Bitcoin, it's not breaking its all-time highs. This has broken its all-time highs, which is really, really bullish. And if you look at some of the other projects, you can see that starting to happen. So the altcoins are kind of winning the race. And I believe this is going to go a lot higher. However, I can also see an opportunity to make money without sentiment. And that's a really important part, a really important skill in trading. And so if you see here, I got an alert this morning that this cryptocurrency was hitting my angle resistance line. So I had a look at the chart, and I identified an opportunity to sell it. So that's basically what I'm doing. I've sold this, and I'm looking for a pullback. I've got a couple of targets, but I guess the point is, if I just show you what I'm looking for and how I'm managing the trade, it will kind of give you a bit of an insight. So what I normally do is, I'm getting another alert for a different cryptocurrency. So what I normally do, so this is an example here. I basically have two targets sometimes. So in this case, I'm going for an easy target, which is basically back to old resistance that becomes support. And then what the plan is if that target gets hit, I'm then going to move my stop down to break even trade and just let it see if it can go a little bit lower. Sometimes it will just kind of crash because the market's gone up really high and you just don't know what you're going to get. Now, in this case, I've actually put a second take profit. In other situations, I would actually just leave this open and just trail my stop down. And I've caught some really, really big moves doing things like that. So I guess the point is like, when I look at something, I'm not looking at it just from a point of view of like, I've got this in my long-term portfolio as a long. So my sentiment is this is going higher. So if it goes higher, I'm making money. But by trading it, I'm able to take advantage of these kind of turning points and basically build my income up. And then I take that profit and then I go and invest it into other cryptocurrencies. So that's the advantage of actually trading these markets. Let me bring up Bitcoin, guys, because I think it's important that we go and we look at Bitcoin and we speak about Bitcoin, because I think it's key.